And we're back here with learning target number 3, finding the slope finding the slope of a line, sometimes given 2 points, sometimes given a graph, and sometimes given an equation. So I'm going to touch on all 3 of those. But finding slope is something that is really important in what we're doing in coordinate geometry. It's going to help us write equations of lines. It's going to help us to compare lines. There's just a lot of really important things about being able to find slope. One of the things that you probably remember back in the day is you probably remember this, rise over run when finding slope. And that's great. If you still remember rise over run, you are already a step ahead. What does that mean? Well, in the world of slope, if I think about 2 points, I have to figure out a ratio of how much does this thing go up and how much does this thing go over. The rise is how far apart these 2 things are going up and down. The run is how far apart these things are going side to side. And they can be found using the formula right here in the middle of the screen. If x1 and y1 and x2 and y2 represent endpoints of a line segment, then the slope, which we refer to as the letter m, is the change in y over the change in x. What you see there in the middle, that little triangle, is the Greek letter delta, and it means the change in, which means I can take my 2 y values and subtract them. Now, the order in which you use your points is important. All right, what does that mean? I'm going to show you in the first 2 examples, I will call point 1 x1, y1, but then in example 2, I will switch them, and I'll call one of them, I'll call the first point x2, y2. And let me show you why I'm doing that, because it just matters that the pair. So when I look at these first 2 coordinates here, they have to come from the same set of parentheses. So if you look down at example 1, -2 is the x-coordinate. If -2 is on bottom first, then +4 has to be on top first. Okay, and then this is subtraction, so make sure that when subtracting a negative that you are turning that into addition. Okay, well, let's take a look at finding the slope. So I'm going to call this first point x1, y1, because it is point 1. And that makes point 2 x2, y2. So to find the slope, I take y2, 10, minus y1, which is 4. That's the rise. The difference in my y's, it's my rise. The run is from x2, 8, minus -2. 10 minus 4 is 6. 8 minus -2 is 8 plus 2, which is 10. And then I reduce my fraction. 6 over 10 reduces to 3 over 5. So the slope relationship is 3 over 5. That means it will rise 3 units and run 5 units. Now, as I said, and you can see here, as I look up column 1, 8, 10 is a point. As I look up column 2, -2, 4 is a point. Some people get a little confused and said, well, what if I call point C, in it, for instance, x2 and y2? That's okay. It just makes the other one x1, y1. And then to find the slope, y2 is 3 minus y1 is -9, x2 is -10, x1, oh, why did I put a comma there? X1 is 11. And again, if you look straight up, -10, -10, 3, that is a point. And then here, 11, -9 is a point. So doing my math, 3 minus -9 is the same thing as 3 plus 9, which is 12. -10 minus 11 is -21. Reduce, they both divisible by 3. So that's 4 and 7, and that 7 is negative. Now let's talk a little bit about slope. What does slope mean? Well, this means if I rise 4, I run left 7. Now, I can put this negative sign up top if I want. I am allowed to switch as long as there is a negative somewhere. You could call this negative 4 over 7. The other thing you could call this is negative 4 over 7. So that negative could be on bottom. It will likely be on top. But in some instances, it could be out in front. Right? And that just means that the slope, instead of going up, this first one has a slope of 3 over 5. That means that this thing is rising because it's positive. When the slope is negative, it means that it is falling, that it's coming down from left to right. So a couple of little additional things about slope that you might find helpful and useful. All right, that's what I do if I have 2 points. All right, rise over run, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. If I have a graph, graphs are even easier. Because here, I am just going to think, what is my rise? What is my run? I'll start at A, I'll end at B. So, from A to B, I have to rise. Oh, that is not pretty. That's how high I have to rise to get from A up to B. So 1, 2, 3, 4, that is a rise of 5 units. And I'm going up, so that is positive. Going to the right is also positive. Now I just count my run. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is a run of 10. Again, rising up is positive. Running right is positive. Rising down is negative. Running left is negative. So my slope is 5 over 10, which reduces to 1 over 2. All right, let me clear that out. C to D. Now you'll see the rise go in the negative. So there's my rise. I'm going down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. My rise and run. Looks like negative 12. I'm going to count that one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yep. So negative 12. Now I'm still running right. So my run right is positive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, both numbers are divisible by 4. So negative 3 over 2. And again, there is a negative slope on CD. I could tell that because my line is coming down from left to right. As I look at segment AB, it is going up from left to right, so it makes sense that that slope should have been positive. All right, so rise over run helps when you have a picture. The last type that we're going to talk about is the equation of a line. And we're going to see equations of lines in a few different ways. And in order to find the slope, it's actually pretty simple to find the slope. I just have to find m. I need to rewrite the equation in y equals mx plus b form, which means get the equation into a form where it says y equals. Once you do that, the number in front of the x is your slope. Not the x, the number in front. Remember, slope is some sort of a fraction or ratio. All right? 6 over 1 means rise 6, run 1. That's a slope. All right? 2x is not a slope. All right? So I am always looking for the number in front of the x. And some problems are really easy to do that. As we can see, we have 3 different problems here. And I need to get them into y equals mx plus b form first. Now, question number 1 is already in that form. you can see it says y equals already. So my slope is the number in front of the x. In this case, negative 3. And now you don't see this, but it is there. That negative 3 is over 1. So the ratio is negative 3 to 1, which means I would rise down 3, run right 1. So negative 3 over 1 is the slope in question number 1. In question number 2, it is not in y equals form. So I'm going to get it there. I want to distribute first. So y plus 6 is equal to 4x plus 20. I distributed the 4. Now I'll subtract 6 on both sides. So now I have y equals 4x plus 14. And again, the slope is the number in front of the x. It is 4. And if you want a fraction, 4 over 1. Which means I will rise up 4, run right 1. And the last one, this is what they call standard form. I have to solve for y. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 6x on both sides. So 3y is equal to negative 6x plus 11. I cannot combine those terms because they are not alike. And now this is 3 times y, so I need to divide by 3. And I will divide everything by 3. Divide everything by 3. Because 3 divided by 3 is 1y. Negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2x. And 11 divided by 3 is just that. It's 11 thirds. It's an ugly decimal. But that ugly decimal doesn't bother me because I only care about the slope. And the slope is the number in front of the x. In this case, it is negative 2. And if you want to see it as a fraction, that is a 1. This is the type of problem where you get to start seeing fractions come up that are not over 1. For instance, if I would have had 5x plus 3y, well then I would have subtracted 5x, had negative 5x plus 11, and then when I go to divide by 3, I end up with a negative 5 over 3. So you'll start seeing a lot of different fractions start coming about really quickly when they come out of this form. You're going to see that quite a bit. But finding the slope when given the equation of a line is nothing more than get the equation into y equals form. And then take the number that shows up in front of the x. And that is your slope. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.